Okay, this review for the final in-class assessment over the quadratic equations. So y equals 2 multiplied by x to the second power minus 8x plus 1. So we see that 2, so it's a parabola. It's a positive 2, so it's going to go up this way. Okay, so I need to find the middle of the parabola. It's otherwise known as the vertex. Okay, now there are no parentheses, so it's in standard form. So my formula is going to be our opposite of b divided by 2 multiplied by a. So the opposite of b is 8, and then 2 times 2 is 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. So one higher, one lower. Okay, then you plug those in and get your parabola. Now I'm going to skip that in the video so we don't waste time. Okay, now this is another parabola. I see it's to the second, so we have a negative in front, so it's going to be upside down when I graph it. So since I have a parentheses, I have a factor that's in parentheses, I take x plus 2 and find out what x would need to be to make that equal to 0. Because 0 to the second power is like kind of one-way direction. So minus 2, I get negative 2. So that's your vertex. And then negative 1 and negative 3. You insert those in for your x variable. Okay, now y equals 2 times x minus 4 times x plus 5. Okay, the double x's, the product of two x's makes it to the second power. Okay, so since it makes it to the second power, I know it's a parabola. The 2 is positive, so it's going to look like that. So what I do is I take each parentheses factor, x minus 4 and x plus 5, and I set those both equal to 0. So I plus 4, so I get 4. Then I minus 5, and I get negative 5. Okay, so 4 and negative 5 are actually what your two outer points. Okay, and when we plug them in for x, you're going to get 0 for both of those. Okay, so my vertex has to be halfway in between these points. So what I do is I find the sum of 4 and negative 5, and that's negative 1. And then I divide that by 2, so that's negative 0.5. Okay, and then I insert that in, and away we go with the graph. Okay, factor the expression completely. I am not going to require you to check your answer by multiplying it back out. So there's two terms, so this would be the GCF. And then I'm going to look for a difference of perfect squares if I can find one. Okay, so GCF, do you have a negative in front? Yep. You got x on each term. And then 16, both of those are divisible by 16. So I factor out negative 16x. Okay, that's a prime factor. And then I go divide it. And that's going to be x minus 5, or 1x minus 5. That's not a difference of perfect squares. Okay, so this is where I need to stop. That's as far as it will factor. Negative 16x times x minus 5. Okay, another two terms. Now there's no square rooting. You're factoring. Okay, we don't need to find any square roots. GCF and DOPS. Okay, so GCF, you have a 2. That's about it. I don't have x's, I don't have a negative, so I'm going to factor out 2. And that's going to be x to the second minus 4. And that is a DOPS because you got 2 times 2 and x times x. So x plus 2, x minus 2. This 2 would drop down, but it's not really an important factor because it doesn't have an x, so not putting it there is not really going to matter a whole lot. Okay, now we're at trinomials. And there's no 4-term factoring on this. So 4-term factoring means it has x to the third power, so it's not a quadratic equation. Okay, it's a cubic actually. So GCF, we don't have that. and then A, B, C. So you're going to get positive 24, searching for a sum of 11. Okay, so that's going to be 3 and 8, and A equals 1, so I just need two parentheses to factor it. So 1x squared is x times x, and then 3 times 8. Okay, so I got to arrange the signs. So I've got minus 11, so we have to have more minus, and then sum means they're the same. Okay, those are both prime then. Okay, next one, another three-termer, so GCF, and then we want to see if we can use our T. Okay, there would be no GCF in this one. Okay, so cross it out. 7 times 6 is 42, so I'm looking for a sum of 13, and that is 6 times 7. Okay, so A equals 7, so I'm going to need to factor it appropriately. I need 4 parentheses, so I lead with 7. Now it was x squared, so it just breaks into x and x, and then 6, 7. So I've got minus 13x, so you got to have more minus, and sum means they're the same. Now I can't reduce that, so that factor remains 7x minus 6, but this divides by 7, so if I divide them by 7, it's x minus 1. Okay, and if you notice that 7x times x is 7x squared, and then positive 6, and then so on. So it matches up. Okay, now we're solving the equation. So there's two solutions to this. Okay, now I have that and I have that. So we have to use factoring. Okay, so I make sure I have my 0, and now I set up my GCF and DOPS box because there's two terms. Okay, so GCF, well, do we have a negative in front? No. We do have x on both, and we can divide those both by 5, so 5x. 5x is going to be pulled out. It's a prime factor, okay? So I divide by 5x, divide by 5x, and that's just going to be 1x plus 5, which is not a DOPS, okay? Okay, so here are my factors. The 5x could equal 0, or the 1x plus 5 can equal 0. So I divide by 5, I get 0 for my first answer. Minus 5, I get negative 5 for my second. Okay, 0, negative 5. Okay, my next answer, there's two answers. Now, here all we have is x squared, okay? So I don't need to factor, I just need to isolate the x by itself. Okay, so I have 3x to the second, and then that's going to be 54. And then I divide by 3. Divide by 3. X squared equals 18. Then we find the square root of both sides. So it's positive, negative. No decimals allowed, so we need to break it up. So 18 is divisible by 9, and 18 divided by 9 is 2. You don't need the I because it's positive 18. So this becomes 3. So 3 square roots of 2. So those are our two answers, 3 square roots of 2 and 3 square roots of 2 negative. Okay, my next problem. X to the power of 2 minus 3x minus 54 equals 0. So it has two answers, and I have this and this, so I need to factor. The 0 is already there, so it's 3 terms. So GCF, and then my T. Okay. So GCF, well, you don't have a negative. 1, 3, and 54, no, but there's no GCF. So 1 times negative 54 is negative 54, and that's a difference of 3, okay? And I find that because 6 times 9 is 54, and that gives me 3. Okay, so A equals 1 here, so 1x squared, that's x, and then 6 and 9. So I've got minus 3x, you got to have minus 9 and plus 6. Okay, those are both prime factors, so now I carry them over here. X plus 6 can equal 0, or x minus 9 can equal 0. So I subtract 6 from both sides, I get negative 6. Plus 9 to both sides, I get 9. There they are. Okay, my next problem, there's two answers. Okay, so I have this and I have this, so that's another problem where I have to factor. So GCF and the T-chart. Okay, so GCF, negative in front, nope. You got X on everything, nope. I don't think you have a GCF. 1 times negative 10 is negative 10, difference of 10. 1 and 10 is not a difference of 10, that's a difference of 9, okay? 2 and 5 is a difference of 3, so there's no way I'm ever going to get to 10. So the T-chart fails, we use our song. So opposite of B, negative 10, plus or minus the square root, B squared minus, and then my 3 parentheses buddies. So B, and then 4, A is 1, C is negative 10. Okay, then 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, so I've got negative 10 plus or minus, and then 2. Now I'm going to see if I can get that square root to work out the way I want it. So I square root. What the heck? So I go second, square root, parentheses has to be doubled. And then I have 10 second minus 4, 1, and negative 10. Okay, it gives me a nice answer, 11.83. Okay, so I add negative 10 plus 11.83 divided by 2 is going to be 0.92. Then I take negative 10 minus 11.83 divided by 2, and that's going to be negative 10.92. Okay. All right, next one. We have this, we got this. That's going to be factoring. So 3 terms, the zero's there for us, and then trinomial. Okay, GCF, I don't believe we have any. And then 6 times negative 6 is negative 36. So I'm looking for a difference that would equal 5, and I get that with 4 times 9. Now, A is not 1, A is 6, so I need the easy way to get this to the way I want it is to have 4 parentheses. So 6 and 6, X and X, and then it's 4 and 9. Okay, so I have minus 5, so you're going to have minus 9, and difference is plus 4. Now, I know 6 is 36, so that's because we got to divide down. So that's going to become 3x plus 2. And dividing that by 3 gives me 2x minus 3. Perfect. 6x squared, negative 6, and then we'd have negative 9 and positive 4 to make the negative 5 in the middle. So 3 times x plus 2 equals 0. 2x minus 3 equals 0. Minus 2. 3 times x is negative 2. Okay, so negative 2/3 is my first solution. And kind of weird here, positive 3/2 is your other ones. Okay. All right, 2 answers for x. Well, we can't go through the parentheses, so I need to use my q. So 3 is the multiplier, and then it's q's to the second equals 108. So I divide by 3. Q to the second equals 36, and then I find the square root of each side, and that's going to be plus or minus 6. So we could be equal to 6 or negative 6, and x minus 3 is the expression in there. So I plus 3, I get 9 for my first answer. Plus 3, I get negative 3 for my second. Okay, number 12. An object is launched from a height of 15 feet and it travels at a velocity of 120 feet per second. So I got to find some different information. So we're talking about gravity here. So all these are parabola problems. And then the equation is negative 16x squared plus 120x plus 15 equals y. Okay, now I'm going to write that in all three because this is the base equation I use to solve all three problems. Now, by the way, the x's are times, so seconds, and the y represents feet. Okay, finding the maximum is right here, and I'm going to use x and y, and I'm going to find the opposite of b divided by 2 multiplied by a. Okay, so this is a and this is b. So the opposite of b is negative 120, and then the product of a and 2 is negative 32. Okay, so negative 120 divided by negative 32 is going to be 3.75. Now that's the seconds. Now what I do is plug in 3.75 in for my x's, and that's going to give me my maximum height. So negative 16 and then 3.75 to the power of 2 plus 120 times 3.75 plus 15. Okay, I got 240 feet. Okay, the object's height after 5 seconds. So I'm going to make a point and put 5 seconds. And 5 seconds is an x value. And I need to find what the y is at the x value. So I plug in 5, and that's going to be telling me what y equals. Negative 16 times 5 to the second plus 120 multiplied by 5 plus 15. 215 feet. Okay. It's 215. Okay, then the last one. Find the time it takes the object to land 20 feet above the ground. Okay, so 20 feet. Now 20 feet is a y value, so I need to plug 20 in for y, and I need to find the time, so I'd be solving for x in essence. So 20, so negative 16x squared plus 120x plus 5. Now there's two different answers for x, because that's the variable we're solving for, and that variable's to the second power. So I need to, since I have this and this, I'm going to try factoring. So I move 20 over. So it gives me negative 16x squared plus 120x, and then minus 15 equals 0. So there's three terms, so it'd be GCF and T. So GCF, if you wish, would be negative, no x, and pretty much you can only divide by negative 1. So I factor out negative 1. So I have 16x squared minus 120x plus 15. Okay, T chart now. 16 times 15, 240. I'm too lazy for the T chart, so I'm going to use my quadratic formula on this problem. Besides, it's not going to work anyway. So the opposite of b is 120 plus or minus the square root. B squared minus those 3. And then 2 times 16 is 32. Okay, so I have 120 plus or minus 32. And then I plug those in. So negative 120, 4, A is 16, C is 15. Okay, so double it. Negative 120, second minus 4. 16 and 15. Okay, and that's going to be 115.93, or pretty much 116. Okay, Okay, so I take 120 plus 116, divide that answer by 32, you get 7.38. Okay, so 120 minus 116 is 4, divided by 32, you get 0.125, so 0.13. Now, both those are legit. That's the number of seconds at which the object is 20 feet above the ground. Okay, so the max height should have that kind of in your brain. When they give you an X unit, you plug in the X, and then the Y is right there to be solved for. But when they give you a Y unit, you got to put it in for Y, and that kind of sucks because there's going to be two answers for X. And you can just actually go to the quadratic formula. You don't even have to worry about factoring, even the GCF. Okay, last one, number 13. An electronics store sells 70 of a new model of camera at a price of $320 each. For each $20 decrease in price, 5 more cameras per month are sold. What's our maximum revenue the store can raise following this procedure? So when all they give me this problem, no hints at all, my answer is what I write down here. Okay, then I recognize, okay, it'd be kind of pointless to identify units because we know that this is a parabola because only those have maximums. So the way to find it is using the opposite of b divided by 2a. Now I need to come up with an equation. I need to generate the equation. So our revenue is equal to the money times the items. So revenue's y. Now I'm only hunting for, to fill this out, I'm on the hunt for money amounts. So 320 and 20. Those would go together. Those are kind of like terms. So 320 minus 20x. Okay, now the other two, the cameras are 70 and 5 are the two camera values. So 70 plus 5x. So if I'm decreasing the price, we're going to sell more cameras. Okay, now I FOIL. I take 320 times 70. Then I go back to 320. 320 multiplied by 5x. Negative 20x multiplied by 70. And negative 20x multiplied by 5x. Okay, so 320 times 70. So I get 22,400. That's going to be 1,600x. It's going to be negative 1,400x. Those are like terms. That's going to be negative 100x to the power of 2. So negative 100x to the power of 2. There's our first. Combine like terms, you get plus 200x plus 22,400. Okay, now a lot of people then go to the GCFT. Do that, you're not getting a master. Simple as that. A and B. Okay, it tells me you don't really understand the problem, so there's no way I can lock you out on a mastery if you do silly stuff like that. Opposite of B is negative 200, and then 2 times negative 100 is negative 200. That gives me 1. Now I just insert the 1s in for the x's, and that's going to give me, I believe it's 22,500. Yep, so 22,500 is our maximum revenue. Okay, it's the last go around on that.